योऽन्ता प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसुप्तान् सञ्जीवयत किल शक्तिधरा स्वधाम्ना अज्ञांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम् कथाञ्जना स्मृते यस्मिन् दुष्करं सुकरं भवेत् विस्मृते विपरीतं स्यात् श्रीचैतन्य नमामितम्। Hare Krishna. Welcome to our weekly discussions on Srimad Bhagavatam. Last time we completed first into 9th chapter, text number 8. Today we will start with the 9th verse. The Pandavas led by Krishna have come to meet Bhishma Pitamaha, who is lying on a bed of arrows, and they want to please him, so they have come dressed beautifully. Krishna has told the Pandavas to dress very nicely so that Bhishma is happy. And now Bhishma greets them. So text number 9, please respond. Tan sametan mahabhaga upalavyavasuttamaha pujayamasa dharmagyo deshakala vibhagave. Yes, really.
Bhishma, who was the best among the 8 Vasus, received and welcomed all the great and powerful rishis who were assembled there, for he knew perfectly all the religious principles according to time and place.
Text 10. Krishnam chatat prabhavagya asinam jagadishwaram Pradistam pujayamasa mayopata vigraham.
Lord Sri Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, yet he manifests his transcendental form by his internal potency. This very Lord was sitting before Bhishma Dev, and since Bhishma Dev knew of his glories, he worshipped him duly.
Text 11. Panduputran upasina Prashraya prema sangatan Apyachasthanuragashve Andhibhutena chakshusha.
The sons of Maharaj Pandu were sitting silently nearby, overtaken with affection for their dying grandfather. Seeing this, Bhishma Dev congratulated them with feeling. There were tears of ecstasy in his eyes, for he was overwhelmed by love and affection.
So we are reading, now the Pandavas have come. Now how is Bhishma responding? That is what we are reading. Bhishma is overwhelmed with emotions of gratitude and joy to see Pandavas have at last become the kings. Bhishma Pitama knew, the verses explain how he knew the principles, religious principles for every age, time, place, and circumstances. And he was overwhelmed with emotion because whole life he suffered. Whole life he was only sacrificing. Now at last, the children whom he loved the most are getting what is due. So Bhishma Pitama embodies a life of selfless sacrifice. Bhishma Pitama is the best example of someone who doesn't care about his rewards or rights. He is more interested in the responsibilities and the duties. Now, modern times, we live at a time when we're all interested in what is my right, what I deserve. But Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, they teach us our responsibility. Like in New York, there is a very famous statue. It's called Statue of Liberty. There is a lady with a torch. That is East Coast, New York. So Viktor Frankl, the author of the most famous book, Man's Search for Meaning, he says, on the West Coast, in the opposite direction of New York, we should have another statue. we should call it a statue of responsibility to balance. Everybody's talking about, everybody wants to know their rights, their freedom. Therefore, Bhishma Pitama is the best example. And since now there is a wave of Ramayana and Lord Ram, we can discuss similar examples from Ramayana of how Ramayana also embodies this principle of responsibility and duty over reward. Like Bhishma is embodying this principle. Like like the recent event which happened yesterday, which is a culmination of centuries of struggle, actually has more to do it than, of course, it has a political angle to it, all that is there. But more than all of that, it has a civilizational merit, depth in it. Because Ramayana and Lord Ram, they represent this culture of service and sacrifice. If you see uh, the way Ramayana has been understood, like Ramayana has basically talks about three cultures, if you see, which is also very much relatable to all of us. First is Ayodhya culture. Ayodhya culture is where everybody is serving, everybody has a mode of sacrifice, everybody wants to give. And then there is a Lanka culture, where the whole mood is enjoying. And Lanka culture is perfect. The perfect symbol of that is Ravana, who exemplifies lust, unsatiable desire. And for fulfilling his desire, Ravana is willing to use anyone. In fact, he gets his entire family killed just so that he can fulfill his desire. So, Lanka culture and Ayodhya culture, these are the two extremes in Ramayana. And Ramayana also presents to us the third culture, Kishkinda culture, where the Vanaras are living under the leadership of Sugriva. And in Kishkinda, we can relate to it because Kishkinda culture is a culture of sincerity but forgetfulness. Sugriva forgot his duty. He promised to help Lord Ram, but he got carried away in sensual desires, sensual pleasures. And Lakshman had to come and remind him. So Vanaras have a proclivity for enjoyment. At the same time, they love Lord Ram and they are duty bound. Like when they were going to search for Mother Sita, they get lost as they're going down south. And at one point, they enter a cave where a great heavenly Apsara, she hosts them and feeds them sumptuous delicacies and offers them rich drinks and feast. And all these Vanaras are enjoying so much. After enjoying, many of them say that why should we go out now? Let us stay here only. Then Hanuman scolds them. And then they all go in search of Mother Sita. And Mother Sita is not found. Then some of them decide, they make a plan. They say, why not all of us go back to that cave and live in that cave for the rest of our lives? And again, Angada admonishes them. So this is a culture of Kishkinda where we want to serve Lord Ram, but also we are tempted by sense gratification. So this is the beauty of Ramayana. It teaches us, it gives us examples of all three cultures. So we look up to, we don't want to be obviously part of the Lanka culture, but we don't want to remain in the Kishkinda culture. We want to rise to the service of Lord Ram and imbibe the Ayodhya culture. And in Ayodhya, if you see, everyone wants to give. In fact, one of the most graphic examples of selfishness is Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi, because of Manthara's politics, Kaikeyi's mind gets bewildered and she actually ensures that Ram is banished to 14 years of forest. In the end, when Kaikeyi realizes her folly, she realizes the mistake she has done. She wants to do penance, she wants to atone. And Bharat Maharaj, Bharat, he performs a lot of austerity because he feels responsible that because of him, Lord Ram had been banished to the forest. Now, Bharat, he decides to perform extreme austerity of sleeping not even on the floor. He says, Lord Ram is sleeping on the floor. in the forest. How can I be on the same level? So he digs a hole in the ground and sleeps below the ground at a position lower than his worshipable Lord, elder brother, Lord Ram. And because Lord Ram is eating fruits and roots in the forest, he says, I should not even eat that. So he decides to take only once a day little barley soaked in cow urine. So he performs extreme austerity. And every day he would go to take bath in the river Sarayu in the morning at 2:30, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Because he didn't want any of the Ayodhya residents to see him. Because he said, if they see me, their day will be inauspicious. Because I am the one who's responsible for Lord Ram being banished to the forest. So I shouldn't be the first person Ayodhya Vasis should see. And you would go to take bath in Sarayu even in the peak of winter, because during winter it is said that Sarayu water would be so cold that even elephants, the Ramayana describes that even elephants would find the water chilling cold in the afternoon at 12 o'clock. And here Bharat goes early morning at 2:30 to take bath in Sarayu in that freezing cold. He performed a lot of austerities. So when Mother Kaikeyi realizes her mistake, she begs forgiveness, and she also expresses a desire to perform intense austerity as penance and atonement for Lord Ram being banished to the forest. So Bharat tells her, no, you have to perform a different kind of austerity. He tells her, you can't stay with me in this ashram. For the next 14 years, you have to stay in the palace of Ayodhya. You have to stay surrounded by all the servants and all the luxuries. You have to sleep on the royal, soft, cushioned bed. And when Kaikeyi is crying profusely and asking for an explanation for this, Bharat says, you should perform this austerity because every moment of every day for the next 14 years will remind you, as you're in the royal palace, that to enjoy this, you caused my elder brother Ram to go to the forest. And this will give you immense pain. And that pain is your atonement, your prayashchitta. So like this, Urmila, wife of Lakshmana, she gave up the company of her dear husband. Mother Sita accompanied Lord Ram. Urmila could not. So she took care of the queens of Dasharat Maharaj. So like this, everybody was performing tapasya. Everybody was serving. And Ramayana begins with this mood, which we see today also. The verse number 11 explains Bhishma Pitama is overwhelmed with affection. His whole life he has been feeling this separation and pain. And Ramayana is Karuna Ras, is embodying the rasa of separation from Lord Ram. Everybody is feeling the intense separation. In fact, Ramayana begins with the description of the two Saras crane birds, Crauncha birds, enjoying, and one of them is shot by the hunter, the male bird, and the female is crying piteously. And that crying in lamentation by the female bird is actually symbolic in one sense. It represents the mood of the Ramayana. Every devotee is crying in Ramayana. So when Valmiki asks Narada Muni to explain to him the characteristics of the ideal person, Narada Muni describes Lord Ram's qualities and he explains the whole Ramayana in 100 verses. After hearing that, when Valmiki goes to Sarayu to take bath and then he sees these two birds mating, and when he sees a hunter shooting an arrow and killing the male bird, in that great lamentation, Valmiki pronounces a curse on the hunter. Manishada pratishtama samagama shashwati sama yad krauncha mituna dega yadavadi kama mohita. He says, these birds are enjoying, and you cruel hunter, you have caused the death of the male bird, you will also suffer in pain like this. After having pronounced the curse, he himself, Valmiki Muni, is shocked that how could he utter a curse like this, and that too in perfect poetic Anushtup Chanda meter. And he's amazed. I don't know how many examples you know of somebody who is very upset and is cursing in beautiful poetry. वो गाली दे रहा है अच्छे से गा गा के. This is only great rishis can do that. And then Brahmaji appears to Valmiki and says, I caused you to pronounce this curse. This is symbolic of the Ramayan's mood. And also now in the same meter, you compose and you narrate the entire Ramayana. But then Valmiki starts speaking, closes his eyes, and he starts narrating 24,000 verses, 660 chapters of the Ramayana, divided into 6 khandas. And Bharadwaj Rishi sitting in front of him, he records the whole thing and he notes down everything later. So that's how Ramayana was spoken, giving this mood of Karuna, intense separation. So when we read and hear Ramayana in this mood of uh, Karuna, mood of separation, mood of feeling compassion and pain, then we will also imbibe that mood and we will be able to overcome the need for emotional fulfillment in this material world. In this material world, our emotional needs are always unmet. However best companion you get, however best luxuries and facilities you get, somewhere the heart will always remain in a vacuum because human beings are inherently, they have limitations in making you happy. How much ever you expect, oh, this person should make me happy. I want to be connected to this person. How much intensely we may desire, and we may get the perfect person, but after some time we will be disappointed. It's not possible to be always fulfilled in any human relationship. But that vacuum, that hole in the heart is filled only when we fill it up with a complete whole, which is Krishna, which is Lord Ram. And Ramayana especially needs to be studied not simply as an intellectually stimulating scripture. Many times I've seen we are fascinated by commentaries and purports, which is very healthy. I also listen to all the purports and commentaries because when a devotee speaks his realization on Ramayana, it is very nourishing. But when we read also, or when we hear pure katha, the way that nourishes us is much, much more than simply looking for analogies and intellectual stimulation through katha. Like somebody may say, oh, Lord Ram represents intelligence, Lakshman represents mind, or whatever. Those kind of things are very attractive to hear. Then Sarayu is the river of the heart, and the ocean is this, and the Lord Ram's bow represents this. So sometimes I feel a little dry in that because that is beautiful, but the pastimes are pastime. When you read them from the Ramayana, directly from the Ramayana, verse by verse translation, or when you hear the katha, like our Rajendra Das Baba ji hai, हमारे वृंदावन में राम कथा करते हैं. Many Ram Kathakars are there. And even in ISKCON, we have devotees doing Ram Katha. Just hearing them Katha. And in between, they share their purports. Also. That is also nice. Very, very nourishing. But that doesn't mean, that is not an excuse for not reading or hearing pure Katha. Like Srila Prabhupada gave us Krishna book. Why? Srila Prabhupada wanted devotees to read Krishna book. So we should hear also live classes, but we should also read scriptures because that will shape our intelligence, that will give us practical guidance. When the classes, the speaker is speaking his purport and his interpretation and his analogies on the scripture, that is nourishing, but that is practical for that speaker. See, there is a difference between stimulation and satisfaction. That katha can stimulate the intelligence, but you have to see where it is satisfying my heart. And that Karuna Ras of Ramayana, and Lord Ram and Sita, they are feeling separation from each other. When Hanuman is serving, when Jatayu is sacrificing his life, when Guva is showing such deep friendship for Ram, when Sugriva is taking risks and is calling all his Vanaras to help Lord Ram, and when Lakshman is showing his intense attachment to Lord Ram by doubting his own brother Bharat. So and when Dasharath Maharaj is wailing piteously, crying at the feet of Kaikeyi to take back her promise, all these pastimes are meant to churn our heart and ensure that we develop emotions for Ram. And in that state of emotional connection with Ram, we will be guided by Lord Ram in our heart. to find solutions to our vexing problems, rather than looking for solutions from a speaker of Ramayana for our problems. He doesn't know what your problem is. Lord Ram knows what your problem is. So when we hear the katha from the speaker, we are hearing in the mood that the Lord in the heart will reveal to us what is the solution. Like there are 5 examples I can give from my own life, because there was a time when I used to read Ramayana regularly, especially when I was not staying in temple for almost 8 months. I continuously I didn't stay, and then even before that, for 1 year, every month 6 days I was staying in with my mother. So I was reading Ramayana during the entire 1.5 year period, and that time I realized the power of reading scriptures verse by verse. I remember one instance when we went to Sri Lanka Yatra. I think I mentioned that here. In Sri Lanka Yatra, I was speaking in the morning some classes, seminars on communication seminar, relationship seminar, mental offenses, and interactive seminars. Evening, we were doing pure katha. And the end of the yatra, all the devotees said that evening katha was very nourishing. I said, but you already know Ramayana. Why did you like it so much? They said, because Ramayana, although we know the whole story, past time, but hearing it again and again, somewhere it satisfied the heart. That is the power of Ramayana. That's why Ramayana has shaped the consciousness of the whole world. Everywhere Ramayana was spread. Because Ramayana invokes that mood, invokes that love for the Lord. So that Sri Lanka Yatra was a revelation for me. And subsequently, I remember reading many sections. I remember once, there are some doubts I had for a long time. Although the doubts are intellectually resolved, but those doubts in the heart, they were removed from the heart only when I started the culture of studying the scriptures. Intellectually, you can get answers. Like for example, I have written 15-page whole article on why Ram sent Sita, Mother Sita to forest. Why Ram banished Sita करके पूरा article लिखा था. So now I know all the arguments. I've heard of Subilas Prabhu's answers, Gaur Gopal Prabhu's answers, and Radhika Raman Prabhu's answers, and all the point, made an essay. And when I go to UK, there also I give lectures to Pandava Sena on Lord Ram banishing Sita. So all the answers I know, and we can speak for hours and explain. But in the heart, somewhere, that feeling was there. Somewhere it was intellectually convinced, but heart में था एक कुछ कि ऐसे कैसे जोड़ दिया. So that went away only when I was reading Aranya Kand some years ago. Aranya Kand is Bal Kand, and then there is Ayodhya Kand, where Ram marries Mother Sita. That is Ayodhya Kand. And then Dasharath Maharaj and Kaikeyi's conversation, Kaikeyi banishing, that all comes in Ayodhya Kand. Then comes Aranya Kand, where Mother Sita is kidnapped. Shurpanka coming, Ravana kidnapping, all that is Aranya Kand. So when I was reading Aranya Kand, there are many chapters when Lord Ram comes running back, when he hears Maricha's cry, then he comes back, like he meets Lakshman, he scolds Lakshman, and then both of them come to the hermitage. And to their shock, they discover that Sita is not there. And then Ram starts crying piteously. And the whole description of how Ram is asking the trees, where is Sita? And then he sees yellow flowers and he thinks Sita is hiding there. And he starts laughing. And then he sits in meditation, feigning meditation and saying that, okay, Sita, I will not get angry with you. Please reveal yourself. And then at the same time, as he is laughing, hoping that Sita will come back, deep within he is aware that she's actually been kidnapped. So he is living in denial and he's not able to come to terms with this. And then suddenly he starts wailing loudly. The way Lord Ram is going through a plethora of emotions, so many emotions are churning in his heart. And finally, how he breaks down when he finally realizes that Sita is not there. I think there are 6, 7 chapters describing Ram's lamentation, crying. He cries. I mean, we have seen in other scriptures, as in Bhagavatam, devotees crying for Krishna. There are many places you'll find in scriptures and commentaries where devotees are constantly crying for the Lord. But in Ramayana, you'll see the Lord crying. We know Krishna also cries in separation. We've seen Chaitanya Mahaprabhu crying Chaitanya Charitamrita. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the mood of a devotee, and here Lord Ram is in the mood of a human being. So his entire human emotions come out. And he's very grave generally. But here in this Aranyakand, he's wailing, crying like a madman. He actually becomes a madman. So when I was reading that entire section, I realized any person, any hard-hearted, stone-hearted person will also read that. He will be convinced that whatever it is, whether he has done right or wrong, the person loved his wife. There is no doubt about that. So when you are convinced that Lord Ram loves Mother Sita, then heart is convinced, then intelligence, then arguments, logic and all will come later. Unfortunately, what happens, we always look for intellectual understanding in all the scriptures. We don't look for the heart getting nourished. But if we keep the intellectual analysis aside and allow the sound to purify the heart, so when I was convinced in the heart that Lord Ram loves Mother Sita, then all the arguments did not make sense. The arguments, they made sense, but they were like secondary. You getting the point I'm making? So it is important that we connect to the, like for example, when I was reading at one point of time, I just was so stunned by Lord Ram's. Once it's a very nonchalantly mentioned some verses. In one section, I remember at one point of time while reading the Aranyak, and I felt, ये वही Ram hai. Few years ago in Ayodhya, when Dasharath Maharaj calls him and says, "My dear son, tomorrow you will be made the Prince Regent. Tomorrow will be a Raja Abhishek." So Lord Ram accepts that news very soberly. He doesn't get excited. He practices that Gita verse, Tam Titikshasva Bharata, be tolerant in happiness and distress. And next day, because of the politics of Mother Kaikeyi, he loses the kingdom. And when he gets the news from Mother Kaikeyi, he is equipoised even at that time. It is not affected. And then when I was reading Aranyakand and I'm reading how Lord Ram is, ये तो पूरा अलग ही इमोशन है. अयोध्या कांड में ऐसा नहीं था. And as if anticipating this doubt in my mind, okay. So as if this is as if Lord Ram knows that I'm thinking like this. And that very time I found this verse where Lord Ram is telling Lakshman, Lakshman, when I got the kingdom and I lost it, I was equipoised. And no material misery made or no material happiness ever made me excited or distressed. And this equipoise, equanimity I had because Sita was always with me. So, but now I've lost Sita, so I've lost my equanimity. I said, wow, that answers. Because the position he gives to Mother Sita is very high. So like this, you see, you get answers to your questions, and these answers are answers which satisfy the heart, not simply the intellect. This is one, and there are many examples like this. Immediately after that, we find at least 5-6 chapters that Lakshman is consoling Lord Ram. And there is I given now in 2021, 2020, I gave 4 lectures on Ramayana. I was in Udupi that time. And there is one lecture I titled it, When God Overcame Depression. Just I gave an attractive title. Then, of course, I clarified for half an hour. God can never be in depression. Just to title that attractive here. But I clarified that. But then if you read the way Ram is, what all proposals he's giving. So when Mother Sita is lost, at one point of time, he wants to destroy the whole universe with this Brahmastra. And at there's one section where he's seriously contemplating suicide. There is one section where he tells Lakshman, now you go back to Ayodhya, I'll sit here and do meditation and I'll become a yogi. I'll become a wandering mendicant and I will give up everything. So like that, some of the most, extreme steps that Lord Ram is contemplating. The whole narrative of Ramayana would have changed. So Lakshman, first, so the art of counseling, I call it the art of counseling. Lakshman, there are 15 points. How Lakshman counsels Lord Ram, what are the things he does? So it's almost 2-hour class I gave on different points. How he consoles Ram, how he agrees with Ram's idea of destroying the universe, and how he presses his feet, how he speaks kind words, and and how logically he also speaks strong words to Ram. At one point of time, he says, "What is this? You are lamenting like an ordinary person. Everybody, material world means suffering." And then Lakshman gives examples of all the great people who have suffered in material world. And then how are you special? Like that, he castigates him also. So when you read that whole thing, you are impressed and you get a lot of counseling tips also. And then if you are ever depressed, you should read that section. If you're ever sad, you should read how Lakshman is convincing Lord Ram. And then at the end, Lord Ram, I don't remember right now. I don't remember right now the points, but I've given a classes on that. I'll have to see the notes or hear it again. But I remember the experience of reading them, and I remember the experience of relishing them. I remember the experience of the aha moments. Oh, wow, wow, wow. Those moments I remember. Technically, I don't remember the point, but I remember at one section where Lord Ram is telling Lakshman that Lakshman, you have saved my life. You have protected me. He thanks Lakshman profusely, and then tells Lakshman, "Tell me what we should do now." He actually surrenders. He takes that humble position. Lakshman says we should go southward because then they see some signs. So Ram becomes very humble and he takes shelter of Lakshman. So that authenticity, the human side of Ram comes out. And that is very attractive. If you see Bhagavad Gita also, what attracted me to Bhagavad Gita was Arjuna, the greatest warrior, he actually is crying. He actually becomes vulnerable. And he says, help. He is actually Shishyaste ham sadimam tvam prabhu. I give up. I can't fight this. So like that, Ram also takes a humble position. And Lakshman then guides Lord Ram. So this section also was very hope-giving because I was in a situation where I was alone without association. I needed strength. So at that time, this entire section was giving me a lot of strength. And I was with my mother, who was also very sick. And I was repeatedly reading only this section and feeling a lot of strength. So like that, Ramayana has many, many wonderful sections. So first was the Sri Lanka Yatra, which convinced me, and then reading of Aranyakand. And then there is another thing which helped me very much in my life because of Ramayana. I want to share this also. For many years, I have been struggling with one guilt. Now, I want to share this. Uh, you know, in ISKCON, we don't talk about pranayam, we don't talk about yoga, because our main mandate is to do bhakti, to chant Hare Krishna, to hear Bhagavatam. But I personally, I do my chanting, 16 rounds, I read Bhagavatam, but I also have some other activities which I like, which can be not directly spiritual, but they're quasi-spiritual. Means they are almost spiritual. Like for example, I can sit under a tree for hours, or I can swim in the ocean for hours. So these are all not directly Krishna conscious, but they are not grossly Maya also. Like when I go to some, in India, we don't have such luxuries, but in West, some places there are man-made forests, big gardens, forests. Sometimes I take a bicycle from the host and spend the whole day in the forest. Or even in Hanging Garden, I used to spend the whole day. Or when I was in Borivali, I used to go to Borivali National Park. I used to take a cycle and spend the whole day there. So I like forests and natural settings because I grew up in a village. So I have a natural attraction for these places. But I used to think, यहाँ पे प्रभुपाद तो कहीं पढ़ा नहीं है सब. Generally we say temple is the best place, stay in temple. And temple sometimes it gets crowded, and especially after festival, the next day I just don't come down only from my room. So I was thinking, what is it? So intellectually I knew what I'm doing is not wrong, but somewhere you need a deep, silent reassurance from the Lord that what you're doing is right. That never came. I used to always be apologetic for rushing away to some garden. I used to always feel बोलने का नहीं, कुछ गलत कर, as if it was wrong. So when reading Kishkinda Kand, I remember, so Lord Ram is now, so Jatayu ka pastime ho gaya. Now they are searching for Matanga Rishi's ashram. That I forget. Virada demon ka pastime ho jata hai. Then he guides them, okay, go to Matanga Rishi's ashram. So that journey, I thought, okay, now he has instructed them. So after 2-3 verses, we will find Lord Ram and Lakshman in Shabari's pastime. That is what I would assume. That's how we read Ramayana. But when you read the original 24,000 verses Ramayana, you will find many verses which we don't speak about in generally in classes. So like Ram and Lakshman traveling to Matanga Rishi's ashram is what, almost 2 chapters, almost 40-50 shlokas, and on the way, there are so many trees. And all those trees are explained in great detail. ये tree में ये flower आ रहा है, ये आ रहा है. And when I started reading, I thought, अरे सीधा let me go to the chapter of Shabari. अभी ये skip करो ना, fast क्या करना है. But something within me told me, नहीं नहीं, अभी हम लोग अभी religiously पढ़ रहे हैं, तो जैसे भागवतम sincerely पढ़ते हैं, तो रामायण को भी धीरे से पढ़ो, प्यार से पढ़ो, एक एक श्लोक पढ़ो, ट्रांसलेशन पढ़ो, नेक्स्ट वर्स, कुछ नहीं होगा. डोंट बी, वी ऑलवेज वांट टू डू फास्ट, फिनिश, खत्म कर दिया, चलो टिक हो गया चैप्टर. नहीं, पूरी जिंदगी पढ़ा है, पढ़ते रहेंगे रामायण, क्या कहाँ भागना है. तो धीरे धीरे आई रेड, एंड आई डोंट इवन नो द नेम्स ऑफ दोस ट्रीज, इन द सेंस इट्स ऑल इन संस्कृत and English I was reading the Hindi translation of Ramayana. The Hindi translation is also the same word, only they're explaining. It's not a tree that we know of. I'm like, I don't know, have faith. Slowly kept reading all the translations. ऐसा पूरा कितना verses था, so many trees, so many verses. The chapter is not getting over only. And after I think 3-4 chapters, finally, in the end, after Lakshman has described all the trees and they have reached the ashram, Lord Ram looks at Lakshman, then Lord Ram starts speaking about the importance of being connected to trees and forests and nature. And Lord Ram says, how my mind has now become so peaceful. So Lord Ram is in the actually middle of a great heartbreak. He is in great distress, but he finds peace in that the natural setting and the way Lakshman is described. But then Ram there explains how it is a spiritual experience to be in nature. So when the entire section ended, no, when I was reading this, I also felt pacified. I thought, हम जो कर रहे हैं सही कर रहे हैं. Lord Ram ने certificate दिया है रामायण. See, if I directly read that verse, if I directly got that verse, if somebody had quoted in the class, and I would have heard that shloka saying that, okay, in the Ramayana, this Kanda, this chapter, it is mentioned that one can go to forest, that is spiritual experience. That experience for me would not have been as convincing as I went through the journey of reading faithfully, being in that space of the sacred sound vibration, where my heart was getting purified with the sound vibration of Ramayana. And then slowly, when I reached that section, the cumulative effect of being connected to the sound vibration bore fruit in that particular verse. समझ में आ रहा है आपको? It's not directly cut paste. If you are a cricket fan, so there are two ways of watching cricket match. So for some of you who are very sincere devotees, but you also like cricket and you don't want to waste time, you may just watch highlights. 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And you may say, मालूम पड़ा, जीत गया इंडिया. Like for me, when I get the news, India जीत गया, I don't want to know more. But some who are cricket bhaktas, वो लोग बोले कि क्या मजा है, आप सिर्फ हाईलाइट से पूरा मैच देखना चाहिए, स्टार्टिंग से एंड तक, एक एक बॉल नहीं छोड़ना चाहिए. एंड देन यू अंडरस्टैंड, अरे वो जो जीत गया ना, दैट इज बिकॉज वो 25th ओवर में उसने वो कैच छोड़ा था ना, उधर वो हो गया, उसके बाद ये हुआ था, उसने फील्डिंग चेंज किया था. तो द होल थिंग, जो लास्ट ओवर में जो ड्रामा होता है, जो हाईलाइट्स देख रहा है उसको सिर्फ लास्ट ओवर का ड्रामा मालूम. But one who sees the whole match, he's able to explain he's able to relish it or experience it better than one who is simply having a perfunctory understanding of the cricket game. So the point I'm making is similarly in Ramayana or Bhagavatam, we can just come to the lessons, 5 lessons from this pastime, 10 lessons from that, and we know and intellectually satisfied. It's like watching the highlights. 10 minutes mein essence mil gaya. But going through each verse, listening every day to Bhagavatam class in temple, reading scriptures religiously, is like watching the full match. और एंड में सब फिट हो जाता है. हाँ यार, ये ऐसा था, ये इधर ऐसा था, ये हो गया. Like when you watch a good suspense thriller movie, why something is happening you don't know. In the last 5 minutes, everything is revealed. Like if there is some murder mystery TV series, some 10 episode, and then you are watching, ये इसने मर्डर किया, इसने मर्डर किया, इसने किया, इसने किया, उसने किया, और ये हो सकता है, वो हो सकता है, और लास्ट के 5-10 मिनट में he is revealed. The person you never thought, he is revealed as the murderer. And not only that, then everything makes sense. अच्छा उसने वो ऐसा किया था, अच्छा वो imagine you begin to sit and then you are मेरे को लास्ट का सीन दिखो पहले, लास्ट का पहला पान, हाँ ये हो गया, हाँ ये मन आई नो ना, तो यू नॉट रियलिस्ट इट. Similarly, Bhagavatam, Gita, Ramayana, we can know the conclusion. Yes, Krishna is supreme person of God, surrender to Krishna. That is one thing. But when we read scriptures, we arrive there. It's our journey. So Ramayana, I'm just today we are speaking on Ramayana, but this principle works for Bhagavatam also. This principle works for Mahabharata. This principle works for scriptures. So I just gave, see, there are many examples like this. I gave only three, four examples. There's one more thing I want to say. I like to hear Srila Prabhupada's lectures. Like, I know devotees read. And I've heard many times devotees say we should read Prabhupada books. But what I do, I have got this red box which contains all Prabhupada lectures. So I play Prabhupada lecture and I like it. And then I play it again 2, 3 times. And then third time, what I do, I play the lecture and I know it begins like this. Following the lecture recorded on this date, December 4, 1974, recorded in Bombay. So then I go to the database in the computer, open December 4, 1974 proper lecture, and then as the lecture is being played, I read it also on the computer. So it is very nourishing. So I should do this for a long time. And then one day when I was reading Ramayana, I came across this section which I never knew. See, when we read translation or when we read see what happens, when we read Ramayana in comic form or storybook form, it is small. All the 24,000 shlokas are not covered there. Details are not covered. But there are many pearls, verses, shlokas in the Ramayana, which somehow it misses the summary explanation. Like Ram Lakshman entering Shabari's ashram, for example, because they're in that Kishkinda Kand. I'm like remembering that, I'm saying this. So when Ram and Lakshman are entering that, there is another amazing description how Lord Ram and Lakshman see in Rishi Matanga's ashram so many beautiful fragrant flowers. And both of them are surprised. Such amazing fragrant flowers. Then Lord Ram smiles and says, the reason why there are so many fragrant flowers here? Because Matanga Rishi was very, very powerful and all these disciples would serve the Guru very sincerely. Now, this, what I'm saying now, this is there in Valmiki Ramayana. But I have not read this in any translation or any storybook, these explanations. So Ram is saying why these fragrant flowers are there? Because Matanga Rishi's disciples, they would go every day early morning to fetch firewood for the ashram cooking and for yajna, and they would work very hard. And in the evening when they would come back, they would be so tired, they would be sweating. And as soon as their perspiration drop would fall on the grass, on the pavement, that perspiration drop would suddenly transform into a beautiful, fragrant flower, which would never wilt away, which would remain fresh for eternity. When I read that, suddenly it was the epiphany or the aha moment for me because I realized Srila Prabhupada also has put his sweat in his books and his lectures. And when we are reading those books or reading or hearing those lectures, for me, why it is always fresh? Because it is product of Srila Prabhupada's sacrifice and dedication. And that's why these books also, the lectures will also remain fresh like this for the next 10,000 years. So I could connect it. So I could give, quote and unquote, my purport to that pastime. So what I'm saying, generally when the speaker is speaking, that's a speaker's realization, not your realization. If you want to make it your realization, you have to do two things. One of the two things. Either you write down what you hear, and when you write, you will discover your own realizations, or you read the scriptures yourself. If you don't have time to read the scriptures, then when you hear somebody else's classes, then you write it down then it becomes yours. So I'm just giving little, and the Yuddha Kand has amazing realizations you will get. In Yuddha Kand, there are so many fights between so many soldiers which you don't get to read in the storybook. Like Hanuman and Ravan ka fight pada hai aapne? How Hanuman and Ravan in the second or third day of the fight, they are facing each other. And Hanuman punches Ravan so hard that Ravan falls on the chariot. 3 times Ravan is punched by Hanuman. And Ravan gets up and finally organizes himself and tells Hanuman, "You monkey, you are very good. I'm impressed by your courage and your valor and your strength." Ravan glorifies Hanuman. And Hanuman says, "What is the use of glorifying me? What is the use of all my strength? I was not able to kill you." And then Hanuman tries to attack Ravana again. It's a little comedy. And then Ravana runs away, escapes from there. These are kind of things we don't get to hear, in Ramayana. Generally, we read about main wars. Okay, Indrajit kaisa hua, Kumbhakaran kaisa hua. And the way Hanuman enters Lanka and the way Hanuman fights all the different soldiers and Hanuman's journey in Lanka, how he disguises himself, and who are the different people whom Hanuman sees, the priestly class in Lanka, and there are spies, like we have Raw, ISI. So Ravana had his, I forget their names. There is a class of Rakshasas who are the spies, and then Hanuman is in disguise in Lanka is going around, and suddenly when he sees them, he goes behind a pillar and he hides because those spies are dressed in different clothes. But because Hanuman himself is a spy, he knows he's himself counterintelligence, so he knows how a spy looks like. So all these descriptions are given how Hanuman hides when, and he's able to recognize them as spies, although they are going around as normal citizens of Lanka. So when you read all of that, now you enter the world of Lanka, you enter the world of Ramayana, and that leaves an impression. So like this, there are many, many examples you will find in Ramayana. Like the when Lakshman gets Sanjeevani, Hanuman gets Sanjeevani for Lakshman. By the fragrance of that Sanjeevani, all the soldiers are revived. Vanaras are revived. But none of Ravana's soldiers are revived because they are all dumped into the ocean. So they don't get the benefit because Ravana used his Rakshasas as resource, whereas Ram had kept the dead bodies of all the Vanaras. He had honored them. So the point I'm saying is you can get so many lessons. So there is Ram culture, there is Lanka culture, and there is Kishkinda culture. For us who are constantly struggling to choose Krishna, we are struggling to say no to Maya and yes to Krishna. We want to belong to Krishna. We want to come back to Krishna. For us, Ramayana has to be studied. And the whole mood of installation of the Ramlala deity in Ayodhya and the festival of Ayodhya, the Ram, coming back of Ram to Ayodhya, this is a very, very civilizationally extremely powerful and unprecedented moment in history. The last 500 years is one of the greatest moments. The whole of India was chanting Ram Naam yesterday. So holy name, so many people have chanted the holy name. Our mood is everybody should chant. So it was amazing to see everybody chanting the name of the Lord, whatever the purpose could be, whatever the motivation could be. Ultimately, it is glorification of Lord Ram. And Ramayana, this is the most beautiful, most illuminating scripture. So I think, and of course, I was speaking yesterday also to the children. Oh, Ramayana is not an ordinary scripture. Ramayana has so many details which are so casually mentioned, which we may not even recognize. And if you're careful, you'll realize how come these sages knew all of this thousands of years ago. Like Valmiki, I spoke in the beginning of today's class. Valmiki curses. So he tells Bharadwaj, if you look at this Saras crane, initially before cursing, he actually sees the birds enjoying and he becomes happy. He says, see, there is so much of humor, there is so much of love even amongst birds. So Valmiki is happy to see the birds like that. And there, Valmiki very nonchalantly tells Bharadwaj Rishi, amongst the Krauncha birds, they are so loyal, they are fiercely loyal to each other, the partners, that if the male is killed, the female Krauncha will never accept another partner. He just says it. And then, of course, the next verse and the other verses go on. Now, how did he know that? Just by observing nature. Zoology, which studies animals, there's a branch of zoology called ornithology, which studies the birds. And only 100 years ago, they established that, okay, amongst Sarus crane, which is Croncha, the female never takes another companion if her male partner is killed or dies. अभी ये इतना साल के रिसर्च के बाद इनको मालूम पड़ रहा है, ये तो वाल्मीकि ने ऐसे ही लिख दिया. So what I'm saying is they had some knowledge which we didn't have. That's what surprised Alexander Duma. I forget his name. He was the Alexander. I forget. I wanted to read his name today morning. I forgot. He was the chairman of the Archaeological Survey of India in 1830s or 40s. It's part of the British East India Company. Then they were doing all the excavations in India, and he was shocked to find the conversation between Alexander and Porus, that war between Alexander and Porus, and then Alexander decided not to invade India further and he went back. So the reason why Alexander went back was he was in India and he was talking to all the priests, and they told him about what lies ahead in India. Now, yes, come to the northwest frontier, he's there. He's not even come down, just there he hears about the whole subcontinent. And the descriptions these Brahmanas give him, these Indians give him, he's so astounded by the vast expanse of this land that he decides to go back. He says, I cannot conquer this land. Now, in 1830s, when the Archaeological Survey of India chairman, the Britisher, he is taking pride that we are the ones who have set up postal services in India. We are the ones who have set up railway facilities. We know the length and breadth of this country. And he is astonished to see that thousands of years ago, the whole length and breadth of India is so minutely described by these simple Brahmanas sitting in this village. How did they know all of this? That means they must have had some travel uh, guide. They must be knowing so much. Astonishing. Even in Ramayana, you will find Bharat and Shatrughnas coming back from their maternal uncle's place, which was Kaikeyi is from the land of Ukraine and Russia. So from there, how they are coming, how they're coming through snow-capped mountains, how their vehicles driven. There are vehicles in this area driven by dogs, the sledges, which we call, the descriptions of the culture of modern day Ukraine, 11th till 11th century, 12th century, you see Ukrainian artifacts, arts, culture, like peacocks with crest on their head. These are a very common feature of Ukraine and Russian paintings. And you'll see in Ramayana, Bharat, when scolding his mother Kaikeyi, he's speaking about her parents' place where peacocks are also glorified. So many examples of peacocks Bharat gives. You will see cultural mapping. I mean, if Valmiki was a simple sage sitting in his ashram in Chitrakoot, how did he have knowledge of such a far distant land like Ukraine? Today it takes 7-8 hours to go by flight there. And it is across the Himalayan mountains. I went to Russia and I've seen there a river called Russia has a lot of traces of Vedic culture. In fact, there is a whole theory that Russia has come from the word Rishi, how rishis went across there. There you will find in Russia, I saw a river called in Vladivostok district, there's a river called Sita. There is a lake in Volgo district called Rama, and another lake called Moksha. There is a deity of Vishnu there with 4 hands. Shankar Chakra Gada Purna, not worshipped by ISKCON devotees. But these local people, they consider this a reverential Vishnu deity, proper. So there is a lot of Vedic culture was spread across. In Armenia, there is a temple of Little Blue Boy. In fact, French historians have established that Armenians were Radha Krishna worshippers. You'll find lots of evidences in Ethiopia when devotees went in 1969 and gave Ethiopian King Ramayana as a gift. He said, "We are descendants of Kush, Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie." He actually officially made this statement that in the Bible there is a story of Ham and his son Kush. Actually, Ham is a phonetic misnomer for Ram, and Kush is Kush, Ram's son. So he explained all this. And Egypt is derived from Ajpati, who was the forefather of Dashrath Maharaj. And the most prominent queen of Egypt, her name is Sita Main. Just like in India, we have Prithviraj Chauhan, Maharana Pratap, like that. We are one of the most famous queens of Egypt. Egypt is what, 7,000 kilometers from India, and I don't know. Ethiopia is 5,000 kilometers from India. So far off distances, there was traces of Vedic culture. Because when Parashuram drove away all the Kshatriyas, they spread out everywhere. And because of disconnect from the mainland India, over a period of time, the culture got uh, forgotten. In fact, Italy, if you go to Rome, Rome is directly it's a phonetic misnomer of Ram, because Rome was founded on 21st of April 753 BC by the Etruscan civilization. It is part of that. And if you see in their uh, the timeline, if you compare it to the Vedic calendar, that 21st April 753 BC, it falls exactly on the day of Ram Navami. The same month of Chaitra, the same ninth day of the waxing moon, everything fits into the Vedic calendar. And there you will find in the caves, the tourists can see, there's a common painting in all these caves is two men with bow and arrows, and one man is holding a woman. And directly today also you can see in the modern day map of Italy, Rome, if you see on Wikipedia, you will find this you see the map of Italy, Rome, you will find exactly opposite of Rome, in the western side is a city called Ravana. And that's a proper city where tourists go, they visit caves where there are monkeys holding stones. Now, how far is Italy, Rome, and how far it is from India? So Ravana, of course, they pronounce it Ravena, but we know that Ravana means Ravana. Rome means Ram. In Germany, in the Swabian Alps, they found a half man, half lion deity, which is 40,000 years old. Christians say that the world was created 5,000 years old. They don't even know that there was world. Now, this deity is 40,000 years old. So the point is, Ramayana had impact across. In Iraq, there is a place called Ramya, Ramadi. In Israel, there is Ramallah. Everywhere, Thailand, their whole culture, their national epic is Ramakane. Their kings are Rama 1, Rama 2, Rama 3. Their capital till before Bangkok was Ayutthaya, derived from Ayodhya. Indonesia is a Muslim country, but they openly glorify Ramayana. So why are we hesitating? Why are we shy? Because Ramayana is such immense wealth. Ramayana has so much values to teach us, how to raise our consciousness from Kishkinda consciousness and rise to Ayodhya consciousness. So let us absorb ourselves in Ramayana, not just this time, like not because it's a festival time and then we forget. I really like what Gaur Gopal Prabhu, you're speaking to some of the top leaders of the country. So he was telling them the simple thing. He said, great, now you have done this great festival. Now everybody celebrating. Now we'll talk about Ramayana. Elections will come. This will happen. But what after that? The whole country, you have made the whole country Ram ka Chetana bana diya. Ram Maya banaya. But after elections, what? How will you ensure that this Ram Maya continues? Ram is not simply for using for your own agenda. We need to have something beyond this also. That is our responsibility as teachers, as students of Krishna consciousness. We need to ensure that Ram consciousness is there even after the installation of the temple, the deities. This is not a one-time event. This should be a continuous process. So let us take it as our responsibility to spread the message of Ramayana, teach Ramayana to everyone, and share this knowledge. And let us all become Ram conscious. So this is a very, very happy occasion. And it was such a beautiful experience yesterday to see the deity of Lord Ram. Everybody was celebrating. The temple was crowded. Everybody is talking about. I went yesterday morning for my visa for France. I had this interview in the morning. I came back by 11. First time I saw for a Schengen visa, both for biometrics as well as for the visa processing. Both, of course, they were Indians only. Both of them, first, nobody ever greets me like this. Sunada Swami, Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Ram. I said, wow, early morning, around 8:45 morning, actually, and I just done Shaligram worship. I'm going to this office thinking normal process, and they are all dressed properly in office, and they are saying Jai Shri Ram. Security guard भी जय श्री राम बोल रहा है. मैंने कहा यार अगर ये पूरा साल अगर ऐसा चला तो कितना अच्छा होगा. So this is a very, very rare thing after so many years, See, this is very important what we are going through now. We need to capitalize on this and ensure that we preach and maintain this culture of Ramayana. Because I grew up in a very small town in Udupi, and from childhood, from birth, every day evening we used to, like now we watch movies. At that time, every day evening temple, and there used to be dramas, festivals. One day Mahabharata drama, one day Ramayana drama. Really nice, simple atmosphere, taking only prasad every day. And then at the age of 10, I had to come to Mumbai. And I directly came here to Cuff Parade. And first time I went in a lift also at the age of 10. ऐसा ऐसा भी होता है. And I remember the first day we came to Bombay, my father took us to the club. Our colony had and there was some party or something there, and there was some drama on Ramayana. And it was very vulgar drama. It was a spoof. And I was confused, like a 10-year-old boy. I didn't know it was offensive. I was just, it's all like what I was watching in Udupi was, they were in proper costumes of Ramayana and they would do all this. And here it was all, they were in, boys and girls were in pant shirt doing sarcastic drama on Ramayana. Kaikeyi and Dasarath's conversation, they made it vulgar. And then Jatayu is trying to recall. He said, I don't remember who has taken Sita. Then Lakshman gives bribe to Jatayu. And then Jatayu says, I remember a little bit. And then Lakshman says, give him more money. All those kind of cheap. And people are laughing. And I'm confused. Of course, my father got very angry and he made a big protest. But I remember, but I knew that was the time I was baptized into modern Mumbai, South Bombay culture. And then at the age of 25, I came to ISKCON temple. I remember 97, 1997, walking through that area, that gully, straight gully, Bharatiya Bhavan ke Pujo Kari. I came to temple hall, saw all the paintings. I felt, wow, it was like my childhood, sitting on a time machine and going back. And then after that, I was happily trapped here. After a few months, I joined, and so I felt such a big responsibility because I got that in childhood. Somehow Krishna got me back. Somehow I got it again. And so it's our responsibility to give our children and give our future generations this Ramayana culture. Otherwise, so much of propaganda, so much of cheating going on. That's why when I travel, I give as much time as possible only to children. Now, all the cities I travel in US last year, I was only doing program for children. Well, I feel they are so fortunate. So, and yesterday Janvi was telling me a story of one girl, an 8 or 9-year-old girl who's so attached to Ram. So this is very, very hope giving. So let us spread this Krishna consciousness and create this culture of, having this innocent faith in Lord Ram and reading Ramayana. And we have Krishna Dharma Prabhu Ramayana is very good. And now Valmiki Ramayana, Gita Press Gorakhpur have also come out with English translations. So you can read that also. And of course, Bhagavatam, Krishna book is there. So please, let us all become Krishna conscious. Jai Shri Ram. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.